Did they just use holistic methods in order to treat President Trump's COVID diagnosis, or am I missing something? We need to get to the bottom of this, but before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zyrowski, and I started my holistic health practice in order to help you take control of your health naturally, because true health only comes naturally. On October 2nd, President Trump tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the whole process was extraordinarily difficult to follow because, well, you know how our news media is today. So what I did is I went directly to the doctor's press conferences. As a professional and a doctor, it was so cool to see some of the best in the patient care profession at work. Now, we can all agree that the president undoubtedly was going to receive the best treatment available based on the latest state of the science. But what many of us did not expect to see were the holistic aspects of his treatment, because we've heard nothing other than use things like ventilators and pharmaceuticals and wait for a vaccine when it comes to the COVID treatment. And this has been one of my huge frustrations over COVID, because you would think that the experts forgot that we actually have an immune system and that our body has the natural ability to fight off viruses. They've gone as far as outlining the comorbidities that depress our immune system, which increases our risk of death if we get COVID-19. But yet they've told us nothing as to how we can boost our immune systems naturally right in the comfort of our home. Have you wondered why there's been total silence on this? You know, I want you wellness warriors to have the most cutting edge information, so this is important. Amongst using many pharmaceuticals to treat President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis, many natural methods were also used. The first one is critical for your immune system, but also for total body health. It also happens to be a vitamin that many people are deficient in because we just don't get enough healthy sun exposure today. This first critical component is vitamin D. There was a study where they looked at 235 patients with COVID-19. And what they found is that improving the vitamin D status in the patient actually decreased the severity of the morbidities, but also the mortality rate associated with COVID-19. Vitamin D is incredibly important, and it's estimated that 42% of people actually have a vitamin D deficiency. And if you have darker skin, you're actually more susceptible to this because melanin actually slows the process of producing vitamin D in the body. Every cell in the body has a vitamin D receptor on it, and when you have a deficiency of vitamin D, it's going to inhibit your immune system's ability to fight viruses and infections. And it always surprises me when you hear experts say things like, well, there's no evidence that vitamin D actually can help you fight off COVID-19. Well, let's take a step back. Do we all have an immune system? Okay, does vitamin D support a more robust immune system? Does a more robust immune system fight off viruses? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. So why is it that we don't hear that you should take vitamin D, and they talk about it as if it could be dangerous? I mean, we should just be told to take it as a precautionary measure. You know, recently Dr. Fauci gave some random interview, and in the interview, he mentioned he is taking vitamin D to help improve his immune system. How come he is not told the general public to do this as well? Now, I'm not certain how many IUs of vitamin D Trump's doctors actually gave to him. A lot of the small details are actually protected by HIPAA. You can't just go spouting off about people's personal healthcare information. But I will assume that it was a pretty high dose. Personally, I take about 5,000 IUs of vitamin D daily. I live in Michigan. It's a colder climate. There's a lot of cloudy weather here, and sun exposure is pretty limited. The doctors went further to give President Trump zinc as part of his COVID-19 treatment. Worldwide, it's estimated that 2 billion people are deficient in zinc. And as it turns out, according to the research, zinc is pretty important for immune system function. When we look at the research, what we find is that a mild zinc deficiency can impair macrophage and neutrophil function, natural killer cells, and complement activity. All this basically means is that zinc is incredibly important for immune system function. And the research also shows us that zinc can decrease the risk and duration of an infection. Now, once again, I don't know what kind of dosing they used in this case, but I will tell you this. I personally use zinc as a way to boost my immune system. I have these immune boosting power packs that I use when I'm either sick or feeling that I am at risk of getting sick. If everybody's sick around me, I'll put resources to that in the description below. The next big thing that they use that I thought was really interesting was melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that basically regulates our sleep cycle. At night, we produce more melatonin to make us sleepy for bedtime. One of the things that you may not know about melatonin is that it's a very powerful antioxidant that offers a wide range of health benefits. In fact, in men, melatonin has been research proven to raise growth hormone, which is incredibly important if you're trying to heal or recover from some sort of sickness or injury. Now, in the president's case, the doctors have actually said the guy never sleeps, so I'm sure that they were giving him some melatonin to try to calm him down, help him go to sleep at night, because according to the research, if you're not getting good sleep at night, it'll depress your immune system as much as 70%. I can attest to this because I have 4 kids, and every time my wife and I had another baby, it seemed that my sleep would just be horrible and I would constantly get sick and wouldn't have the ability to fight it off. Now, the president's returned home, he's fully recovered, back to work as usual, as many of you know. But one of the things I want to mention just throughout watching what happened in this whole scenario of President Trump getting COVID-19 is that the media was as awful as you would expect. They attacked his doctor, Dr. Sean Conley, who's a true professional for being a DO, talking about him as if he got like some online certificate and he's not at the level simply because he doesn't have MD after his name. This particularly irritates me because people all the time try to portray doctors who don't have MD after their name as if they're not good enough. Realize people choose what kind of doctor they want to be based on how they want to treat and care for patients. When people ask me, why did you not become an MD? It's simply because I have no interest in medicine. I want to use holistic and natural practices to treat my patients, and that's why I became a DC and not an MD. Another thing that was particularly awful that the media did is that they tried to portray the doctors as liars simply because they weren't just spouting off about President Trump's health information. There's something called HIPAA. You can't do that. All the time by patients, I get asked about maybe some of their family members or maybe one of their friends that also sees me, and I cannot say a word about their care because it's not my information to give. There's something called HIPAA. You have to keep people's healthcare information private, so if their doctors are following the HIPAA policies, it does not make them a liar for doing so. So let's not forget that natural ways to improve your health should always be at the forefront. To learn more on how to boost your immune system naturally, watch these. Ways that you can boost your immune system naturally using targeted nutrition. And so that's what we're going to discover in this video. So stick around to the end as I break down the top things that you can do and all the science behind it.